Evening in downtown Raleigh. Well, even the most accurate COVID test isn't right all of the time. That's why one testing industry consultant thinks it's time to put those test results into context. WRAL Investigates Cullen Browder shows us, unlike now, a positive COVID test would not send immediately you into quarantine.
Detected, one of the most feared words during the pandemic.
I clicked on it and it said detected, and I almost fell over.
Breanne Brown got that message in the fall, a positive COVID test.
In the moment, it was very frustrating.
Here's why. After feeling run down, she tested twice, 2 days apart. Negative both times. A couple of days later, her daughter had a headache. They both tested. The daughter was negative, but this time Brown's came back positive. The next day, the entire family, including Brown, all got tested again.
All of our results came back and all of us were negative, including myself.
Despite voicing concerns about testing accuracy, her healthcare provider said the positive test trumps the negative tests and the family quarantined.
No test is infallible, and you're going to have false negative and false positive results.
Dr. Glenn Brownstein is a professor of medicine at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center, who also consults with test makers, and he admits sometimes the results are wrong.
That's true of basically any test, but it's especially true of these tests.
Early on, people got tested at the advice of their doctors. Now many people test as a precaution or as a necessity to keep their jobs if they're not vaccinated. Brownstein feels test results need to be treated differently for those people.
If you're asymptomatic and not a high risk, you haven't been in a high risk situation, and for one reason or another you tested positive, get retested.
So right now, if the result is positive, you stop and go right to quarantine. Brownstein wants extra steps, like a medical decision before confirming the positive. But there's also a top section to this chart. If a patient tests positive but has no symptoms and no known exposure, isolate for 24 hours and retest. If it's positive again, that's it. But if follow-up tests are negative, a doctor could decide the first test was a false positive, clearing you to return to work or school.
So not all PCR tests are created equal.
Even the test makers say in their FDA applications that test results and a professional diagnosis should be standard procedure. In the race to slow the virus, though, we continue to skip that second part.
I always think it is a good rule of thumb that you should not hang your hat on a test alone, that you need to put it into context.
As we head into winter, Brownstein expects false positives will become more common, leading to yet another concern.
It may very well be as we enter flu season and people are getting flu and there's a lot of overlap between flu symptoms and COVID symptoms, that this is going to come up more and more.
He says it's okay to question a positive result if you don't show symptoms and weren't in a high-risk environment. Just be smart about it.
I'm skeptical. I don't think this is real, but I'm going to act in a prudent manner. That is, I'm going to isolate myself and retest.
Brown did just that, but her mixed bag of results still leaves plenty of questions.
Considering your experience, what is your feeling about the accuracy of the test now?
I question it constantly. I think there's enough evidence to suggest the tests aren't always right?
Cullen Browder, WRAL News.
It's up to local health departments and employers to decide if they're going to accept false positives. The Los Angeles County Health Department is one of the largest in the nation that recognizes false positives and suggests people isolate while their doctor performs follow-up tests.